Hey folks, how's it going? It's Game Webcam, and welcome back to another episode of RoView, the series where we take a look at a variety of different Roblox games and determine how good or bad the games are. Now for this episode of RoView, we are going to be looking at the Roblox game Stranger Things Starcourt Mall, made officially by the people at Netflix. Now usually I would have a disclaimer at the beginning of my videos telling people to not go and harass the developers who make this game, but since the developers of this game are actually a huge corporation and not some indie developers or a group, while I still personally think it is not okay to go harass people based on how terrible of a game they make, I think it is a little bit more tolerable in this situation than it usually is because this is a big corporation. Anyways, I just recently hit 400 subscribers on my channel, and I would like to make my channel go to 1,000 subscribers so that way I could unlock a lot more features and do more potential with this channel. One thing that you can do that can help me accomplish this goal is by hitting that big red subscribe button below this video. It only takes a few seconds, it's free, and if you don't enjoy my content, you can unsubscribe at any time. So what is Stranger Things Starcourt Mall? As the title of the game says, the game contains a map that recreates the famous Starcourt Mall that is shown in the Netflix original series Stranger Things 3. While there are definitely things that are vastly different from the actual Starcourt Mall shown in the film, such as the knockoff names of many of the stores, I mean, some of these are just so poorly uncreative it's funny, and others are just straight up creepy. Yeah. I would say it is definitely a watered down and downgraded version of the mall. However, that's not the main focus of the game. There are going to be 6 different locations that will matter the most throughout the game. The Dueling Dice room, the high score Slingshot room, the Scoops Ahoy store, the movie theater, and the 2 stores on the bottom related to buying accessories and costumes. This game is an official Roblox event and is endorsed by Roblox, as this game is shown on Roblox's sidebar for you to click on. Upon your first time playing the game, you will be greeted by what seems to be the character Mike, asking you to interact with 4 other characters that come from the film: Will, Lucas, Steve, and Eleven. Now, I want to get this out of the way because I know you're probably thinking this. Why do they look like this? Well, this is a game that doesn't use the Roblox Lego aesthetic that most of you are familiar with. And the characters that are being shown here use Arthro proportions rather than traditional R15 proportions. Now, in my Roblox Vocal Minority video, I've talked in depth about the hatred that Arthro gets and why a majority of this hate is quite unjustified. If you want to watch this video, you can find it in the top right corner. This is a great example of game developers using Arthro proportions and Arthro packages to accomplish different character styles that don't need to resemble Roblox's Lego aesthetic. And it is quite a bold move for these developers to do, so I'll give them applause here. I will say though that they do look a little uncanny because they do look like dolls. But at least they are trying to establish a huge theme that not a lot of game developers are willing to do when it comes to making their games. Anyways, for the next part of the game, you will have to play all 4 minigames that the game has to offer at least once, and I will be going through each one of them individually. Will is the character you talk to when you do Dueling Dice. This is a 2-player game that you could either play with someone else, or you could choose to play the game against an AI if you sit for long enough, effectively making the game also single player. In Dueling Dice, you have 4 different classes you can choose from, each having 3 different attacks you can perform. The attacks do a variety of different things depending on the character that you choose, with Diana the Acrobat having a lot of health and having attacks that heal her, while with a character like Presto the Magician, he will have attacks that deal a lot of damage but starts out with lower health as a result. Some attacks will help give higher rolls on the succeeding turn or deal damage the next turn. You start off the game by rolling a d20 to determine who goes first, with the higher number beginning first. Now, when making an attack, you will have a low tier, mid tier, and high tier attack. You will choose one of the 3 attacks provided by your character and roll to see whether you land the attack on your opponent. A higher tier attack will deal more damage and does more abilities with your character, but these are riskier by requiring higher rolls to land the attack successfully. After attempting to make an attack, the turn ends and will be passed on to the other player. There are 2 special effects that do happen depending on the number that you roll. If the player ends up rolling a 1 with their die, which is worst case scenario, you not only will miss even your lowest tier attack, but damage will actually be dealt to yourself as a result. On the other hand, if the player ends up rolling a 20 with their die, they will land a critical hit and will actually deal more damage and have higher effects than what their attack lists. The game ends when one of the player loses all of their health, making their character unconscious, and the opponent is declared the victor. It is clear that Dueling Dice takes heavy inspiration from the game Dungeons & Dragons, considering the logo of the game contains the Dungeons & Dragons logo. However, Dueling Dice is a ridiculously oversimplified version of how actual combat happens in Dungeons & Dragons, taking out a bunch of statistics, skills, traits, but most importantly, the fun dynamic of one game never being the same, which I personally think is the main selling point of Dungeons & Dragons. It's clear a lot of these simplifications are done to help make the game understandable to those who have never played D&D, and it's also much easier to develop when you strip away a lot of the side mechanics that Dungeons & Dragons has to offer. Unfortunately, by oversimplifying the game, the minigame is pretty much an RNG fest, and as a result of this, is probably my least favorite minigame to play out of the 4 minigames that this game has to offer. Lucas is the character you talk to when you play High Score Slingshot. It's clear that this is an homage to the infamous wrist rocket that is associated with the character in Season 1 of the show, and I really like how this game doesn't forget any of the Stranger Things earlier seasons. Like, when you think of playing this game at first, you think that they're only going to be promoting Season 3 of the show, but it turns out that they're making a lot of references to earlier seasons of Stranger Things, so I'm glad they're not forgetting about their older seasons and possibly the culture that was surrounding it. Anyways, High Score Slingshot is a single player minigame that you can play by yourself, and the objective is pretty simple. Shoot down the Demogorgon targets that pop up on the target area, and be sure to not hit any of the high school jocks in the Letterman jackets. You are able to move around the table unless you hold right click and are focusing on making a shot. Now, you have to focus and left click in order to shoot your slingshot and hit a target. Normal Demogorgon targets do not move and are worth 100 points. Demodog targets, which are targets that actually move from one position to another, are worth 250 points per hit. However, hitting a high schooler will deduct 1,000 points from your total score, making it very clear that you really should not be hitting these people. Now, on the back wall of the shooting area, you will be noticing the infamous lights keyboard, again referencing to Season 1 when Joyce was trying to talk to her son Will. Throughout the game, if you notice closely, one of the lights will start blinking at random. If you actually aim at the blinking light and hit it with a pellet, this will earn you 500 points. Get all of the blinking lights and you will have filled in a bonus word of the game. Now, as of recording this, the only bonus word that you seem to get when playing this game is the word run, which again is a reference to the key scene in Season 1 where Will tries to warn Joyce about the Demogorgon coming after her. I mean, how hard is it really to change up the variety of the words you get and have it spell out a few new words? Like, for example, Hawkins or Muse, or possibly tied in with some hidden lore or a secret clue to Season 4. I don't know, something like Russia. These bonus targets honestly could have had a lot of potential and tied into the plot of Stranger Things, but it just sucks that this portion was heavily underutilized. Anyways, the minigame ends after 20 rounds, tallying up a final score based on the targets you hit and your accuracy rating, and that's pretty much it for this minigame. High Score Slingshot has randomness to it like Dueling Dice, but it is input randomness rather than output randomness, and if you don't understand what that means, that's perfectly fine, Google's there to help. High Score Slingshot's usage of RNG helps make the game quite a lot of fun playing, and it's one of the more enjoyable minigames to play. However, there are a few caveats. This minigame can get a little glitchy at times. The focusing and unfocusing are a little glitchy because sometimes when I do focus, I can shoot right away, and then there are other times where I have to wait about half a second before I can make the shot. And the bonus targets can be really annoying sometimes, because sometimes they don't even register a hit when I made a clear shot at the blinking light. It's so frustrating when this happens. And this game also really isn't the most original concept, but I really like to think of it as a more friendly version of a gun range. This isn't a bad minigame, and I kinda like it overall. Steve is the character that you talk to when you play Scoops Ahoy Delivery Dash. Now, you only interact with Steve once, but you have to actually speak to his coworker Robin to start the minigame. And like the other games we've mentioned so far, Delivery Dash is a single-player minigame with a pretty simple objective. Take the ice cream that is presented on the tray, and you have to deliver to customers all across the mall as fast as you can. Now, it doesn't really matter what ice cream you pick. You could pick the waffle cone or the big split. Either one is valid. After picking up a tray, one of the random people standing around the mall are selected at random as the customer, and you have to run over to that customer before the ice cream melts in your hands. They give you plenty of time, so you should be perfectly fine. You have to really be slow in order for the ice cream to melt in your hands. One thing you're going to immediately find useful when playing this game are the various cola cans that lie around the map. Run into one of these and your character gets an immediate speed boost that lasts for about 3 to 4 seconds. You also get this speed boost when you successfully deliver the ice cream over to the customer. For each ice cream that you deliver, you get 3 seconds added to a timer that is counting down, incentivizing you to deliver these as fast as possible. There are also a lot of coins that are scattered across the mall when playing this minigame, and collecting them will actually add 1 coin to your coin count per coin you collect by the end of the minigame. The minigame ends when the timer on the top left runs out, and you are rated based on how many deliveries you've made. Out of all the minigames that this game has to offer, Delivery Dash is by far the best minigame to play. Like with High Score Slingshot, the randomness present in this game is input randomness, but even then, there's a lot less randomness to this game in general. This is also the game that utilizes the entire mall as a playing area for the game. It's really nice that Delivery Dash helps make the map serve a functional purpose instead of just out there for looks. Eventually, when you start playing the game for long enough, you start to devise different strategies on how to deliver ice cream to each customer in the fastest time possible. The colas that are present throughout the mall never change position, even when playing in a completely different session. This really does allow for people to figure out efficient paths, as some colas aren't placed in the most convenient positions. However, this is an example of a game that doesn't have enough randomness. Now, don't get me wrong, the Delivery Dash minigame is definitely a minigame that is a lot of fun to play. But once you start playing the game a lot more, especially consecutively, the minigame starts to get a lot more boring. I recommend that you only play this game for a few rounds at maximum. Otherwise, this is a minigame that could easily turn from being your favorite to your least favorite real quick. 11 is the character that you speak to when playing Lab Escape. You just simply talk to her and head into the portal to the Upside Down and start playing the game. This is the only minigame that actually cannot be played by a single player, as you will need at least 3 players in order to play this game, while this game also can support up to 6 players. When entering the portal, you are actually taken to an external server, as you are in a waiting session while enough players gather to start the game. The game starts off by having a player being randomly selected as the Demogorgon, and the other players will have to play as the survivors. The objective for the survivors is to try and escape Hawkins' lab without being eliminated, while the Demogorgon needs to try and attack, capture, and put survivors in nests to fully eliminate them. Survivors will have to solve puzzles in order to progress to different sections of the lab. There are a few types of puzzles that you will have to work with. The valves puzzle is a puzzle where you will have to constantly turn valves until the light above it illuminates. You will have to turn all of the valves to their correct orientations in order to solve the puzzle. The lever puzzle is quite similar, where you will have to flip different levers to a correct sequence to complete the puzzle. You will have to look around the map a bit, as there is a billboard on a wall that tells you which levers to flip over. Then there is the digital circuit puzzle, where you will have to find missing pieces of a circuit that is located in the same room, and you'll have to insert them into the circuit to solve the puzzle. The next puzzle type that you will encounter is the crate puzzle, where there are individual crates that have different patterns and symbols on them. On the scanner shows the pattern that you will need to use, and you must pick up the crate with the matching symbol, put it in a tube, and scan it using a scanner. And the last puzzle that you will come across is a button, which you just simply press. It's that easy. Survivors have to work cooperatively and quickly to ensure that the Demogorgon won't eliminate them. Of course, there are also vines that act as barriers. In order to take these down, you will have to pick up the axe and hit the barriers down. You can find axes scattered across the map. This is done to either reach a puzzle or progress to the next area. Now, the Demogorgon does have a few tricks up their sleeves that they can use. There are the red portals scattered throughout the different zones, which will allow them to quickly travel to different areas and ensure they don't fall behind. Pressing Q will make a screeching roar that will tell you where the nearest survivor is to ensure that people can't hide from the Demogorgon. Also, you can't outrun the Demogorgon as they walk slightly faster than the survivor, which makes sense because they are taller and bigger than survivors. The game can end in a few different ways. There are 2 ways the survivors can win. The first way a survivor can win is if they survive and make it to the ending portal without getting captured. The second way, which is a less fun way of winning, is if the Demogorgon just leaves the game, which has happened a few times when I played the game. The Demogorgon wins when they capture all survivors and put them in nests. Now, I'm going to be blunt here. Escape Lab is pretty much a poor man's Dead by Daylight. It is clear that many of the rules and mechanics are inspired from Dead by Daylight. It is very clear that this minigame was also heavily rushed, as many useful mechanics that are present in Dead by Daylight are completely missing from Escape Lab. For example, if you get knocked down by the Demogorgon and the Demogorgon picks you up, you're pretty much done for. While there is a 10-second wait for players to be able to get back up, the abundant amount of nests present throughout the map guarantees that the Demogorgon will be able to fully eliminate the player. At least in Dead by Daylight, when the killer knocks you down after multiple hits and picks you up, you have the ability to mash the button for a small chance of breaking free from the killer's grasp. And even when you are planted on a hook, you still have a fighting chance where another survivor could either free you from the hook or you could try to make the painful effort yourself to get off the hook before you were completely eliminated. These mechanics were put in the game for a reason. It not only helps balance the gameplay, it also creates the dynamic of panic and intense fear. It makes you think, oh crap, I'm about to die, what options do I have? Another example is when being chased. Survivors can do several things in Dead by Daylight to throw the killer off. Whether it's crawling in small places, knocking barriers over, jumping over ledges, little things that can buy you just a few more seconds of time to make an escape or prolong your capture. The map in Lab Escape doesn't help the player of trying to escape a chase at all. You pretty much just have to rely on the terrible hitboxes of the Demogorgon's attack and just hope they don't hit you because of the game's latency. And even other Roblox games where you have to survive a killer are courteous enough to give you audio cues of when a killer is nearby and you're going to get chased. They usually just play some scary and terrifying music, and this gets your blood pumping. None of this is present in Lab Escape, as you have to rely on some footsteps to know when the Demogorgon is nearby. Is it really that hard to even implement a mechanic as simple as that? I mean, if you want some scary music, you could just simply play this Sif track that was all over the place in Season 1 to stick to the Stranger Things theme. The most ironic thing about all of this is that Dead by Daylight has Stranger Things DLC, where you can play the Demogorgon as a killer and have Hawkins Lab as a map. So if I wanted a better experience of this game, it exists. I could just simply buy Dead by Daylight and the Stranger Things DLC. Again, you could have made Hawkins' Lab Escape somewhat competent to Dead by Daylight, but this minigame misses so many marks that I think Lab Escape is the worst minigame out of all the minigames offered. Not even Dueling Dice was this bad, but Jesus, this was atrocious. Not only was this idea extremely unoriginal, it fails to deliver to the original counterpart in many ways. Anyways, after you have completed all 4 of the minigames, you return back to Mike and he will redeem you for your efforts by rewarding you with 100 coins. Now this is where you begin to experience the actual game. Up until now, you were stuck in a tutorial phase of the game. In the tutorial phase, you can't participate in leaderboards, you don't receive daily challenges, and you also can't buy accessories from the accessory and costume shops. You had to play all 4 of these games individually and learn how to play them before you could do anything else in the game. Since we are now done talking about the tutorial phase, along with all 4 of the games that you can play, now it would make most sense to talk about the other things present in the game. The leaderboard is a silly little thing that can be done to spice competition up, and based on what leaderboard position you are in, you are rewarded a daily allowance of different coins. First place earns 1,000 coins daily, second and third place earn 500 coins, and the rest of the top 100 earn 250 coins daily. Then up to leaderboard position 1000 is when you can earn 100 coins per day. Below this position and you don't even receive an allowance at all. Why this is important is that getting this allowance will make it easier to earn coins and buy accessories. Hi, this is video game webcam here, not voiceover game webcam, because I don't want to do another voiceover correction. Plus, you probably want to see my face. I want to make a correction to how I describe the leaderboards in this game, because how I originally described the leaderboards is not correct at all. And I want to make this correction because this is actually how the leaderboards work. in this game and not how I mentioned it before. How the leaderboards actually work is similar to the daily challenges that I'm going to be speaking about in just a minute. Now, for leaderboards, you actually are given a daily objective like the daily challenges, but instead of it being like a specific objective, you actually have to acquire as many points as possible on one particular game. So essentially what goes on here is that one of the 4 games that is offered in this game is picked at random for the leaderboard. And what you have to do is you have to acquire as high of a score as possible through this game in order to raise your position on the leaderboard. So pretty much the leaderboard is actually like a daily challenge, but you actually can get way more coins through this than a daily challenge. But of course, you will have to work a ton more than a daily challenge in order to secure a high enough position and be able to earn those high tier reward coins that I've listed earlier and make a decent profit from investing your time and trying to acquire a high score in these leaderboards. Alright, that's really all I have to say. That's pretty much a correction that I wanted to make in regards to the leaderboards and how they function, because yeah, that information was just completely wrong. Alright, now I'm going to be talking about the daily challenges. However, there is another way you can earn a lot of coins, and that is by completing the 2 daily challenges that are offered to you each day. You will have one challenge that will give you 100 coins upon completion, and the other one will offer 200 coins upon completion. The daily challenges involve you having to accomplish something in one of the 4 games, such as shooting a certain number of demodogs in high score Slingshot, or defeating a certain number of opponents in Dueling Dice. One of the objectives I've received is a Dueling Dice challenge where you have to get 3 critical hits in a game of Dueling Dice. And my god, was this objective quite difficult. I actually received more coins from playing and completing games of Dueling Dice than the coins I received when completing the challenge. When you finish a daily challenge, you report back to Mike and quickly talk to him, and he'll reward you with the coins that were listed. While the amount of coins that you get for daily challenges aren't as much as the leaderboards, it is still way more coins than if you were to just simply grind the coins, and it is much more obtainable than trying to go for one of the top spots in the leaderboards. But what are these coins, and why are they so important? Well, the purpose of these coins are meant to act as a free currency to purchase items from the 2 shops that I've mentioned earlier. Since this is an official Roblox event that is endorsed by Roblox itself, the items from these shops are items that will actually go into your Roblox inventory and can be equipped on your avatar. These are pretty much the items that are awarded when you play the game. Upon playing the game for the first time, you are rewarded Dustin's hat for free as a way to say thanks for playing our game. And if you notice this the whole time, the character Dustin makes no appearance throughout this entire game. Now, I think a good reason why Dustin is not in this game is because you, the player, are supposed to be Dustin and you are supposed to be filling in from him. At least that's how I think the developers were trying to envision it. However, I think the actual reason why Dustin is not in this game is probably because the developers behind the game must have been on a strict deadline and didn't have the time to make a character model for Dustin and think of another game that could be based around him. It's such a shame because Dustin is one of the main characters of the show, and the fact that he isn't in the game is honestly pretty weird. Anyways, when visiting the accessory and costume shops, you are greeted with the items that you can purchase from the shop. You can actually purchase these items in 2 ways. You can either take the tokens that you have received from playing the games and spend them to buy the item, or you can actually buy the items with Robux if you do not want to wait days or grind your way to getting these items. A lot of the items that are present in this shop are obviously Stranger Things related, such as the head cap that Eleven wears in season 1 of the show, and a backpack related to Hawkins High School. However, there is also the costume shop, where you can purchase entire bundles to wear on your avatar. The costumes cost more than the accessories for obvious reasons, considering that they are much bigger prizes and more lucrative. The cheapest one that you can get is a hazmat suit for 2,400 coins, with the most expensive one being a Demogorgon costume, costing almost 4,000 coins. There are other costumes such as Scoops Ahoy costumes and Will the Wise, which is a wizard costume, and the only costumes that I could see that could have any appeal are the Hazmat, Wizard, and Demogorgon costumes. Now, I have purchased both the Hazmat suit and the Demogorgon costume, which are obviously the best looking costumes that you could get from this game. When I actually went up to buy the Hazmat suit, I ended up running into a glitch where I had negative coins. This must be a glitch as a result of the developers lowering the price of the Hazmat suit last minute. I'm sorry, what? Why do I have negative coins? What the hell? Why do I have negative coins? What the hell? What? Based on the negative coins I have, the original price of the hazmat suit was 2,600 coins, but obviously you can now purchase it for 2,400. I also bought the Demogorgon costume, but to be honest, the Demogorgon costume was a huge letdown. Of course, I was expecting both of the costumes to be Arthro costumes, considering that they have Arthro proportions, and that honestly wasn't the worst part. The bad part of the Demogorgon costume was the fact that they don't use skin meshes for the joints, which kind of ruined the look for the costume when walking or jumping. But the worst part about it was that the headwear of the Demogorgon costume isn't an actual Demogorgon head, but rather a head that works as a hoodie. It doesn't actually replace your head to begin with, and the headwear isn't accompanied to work with the default head, as even in the smallest scale, the default Roblox head frequently clips through the back of the hoodie, suggesting that this is supposed to go along with one of the Arthro heads, which is honestly a pretty big letdown. I liked how the Demogorgon looked a ton more in Lab Escape, and honestly wished the costume resembled more of Lab Escape's model, minus the animated head by just simplifying it down to a more simplistic head, considering that is not technologically possible in Roblox. Instead of just limiting Roblox characters to have just a costume, why not let them just be the Demogorgon? After all, this isn't a carnival or a fair. This is Roblox, where you're supposed to literally be anything. Other than that, the other costumes look and seem okay, if that's what you're into. Alright, now I'm assuming a lot of people who are going to be watching this are going to be people who don't have a Roblox premium subscription and either can't afford or are not willing to spend the high amounts of Robux to buy these costumes directly. So, what is a quick and easy way of getting free coins? First of all, try to complete both of your daily challenges when you can, as these are challenges that are going to give you a lot of coins right off the bat. If it is possible, try to have a decent leaderboard position, because if you have a decent leaderboard position, then there's a good chance that you will get a decent amount of coins by just having a good leaderboard position. However, if you are really insistent on wanting to do pure grinding, which again, I don't recommend because it's going to really suck, then you'll want to look at two different games when it comes to the coin payouts, which are both Delivery Dash and Dueling Dice. Lab Escape is a game that's going to take too long to be profitable, and High Score Slingshot will only reward you 10 coins for each game you play, making it not very profitable. If you have a lot of energy and are more willing to do some intense gameplay, then definitely play Delivery Dash, as this is a game that rewards 35 coins after your first play. And plus, you can get additional coins from picking up coins around the map, which means that you can earn 45 to 50 or even more coins instead of your traditional 35. However, if you are somebody who doesn't want to constantly go around the map and collect coins and want a more low maintenance game, then Dueling Dice will definitely be your best friend here. Now, because of RNG, you aren't guaranteed to win these games every time, but over time you will eventually learn a few strategies that could help lower your odds of losing and make sure you win a little bit more. Dueling Dice will pay 35 coins just like Delivery Dash, and if you do end up losing, you will gain at least 10 coins. So that's a basic strategy that you can follow along to help you gain a decent amount of coins if you are really wanting to buy all of the accessories and costumes from the shops. Here's the thing, it is clear that the game that you are currently seeing in this recording and playing may actually be bound to change soon. As of the time of recording, Season 4 of Stranger Things is currently under production, and it may be a bit before we may begin to see an actual trailer for the 4th season of Stranger Things. Netflix is planning to release 4 different teasers for Stranger Things 4, and so far we are currently on the 2nd teaser trailer, which means that there are going to be 2 more of these teaser trailers before we may start to get an actual trailer for the 4th season. Now, how do I know that this game is bound to change? Well, if you actually visit the game page and take a look at the badges that you can currently obtain represent the different items that you can buy in the game. But scroll down a bit further and you will see that there are these placeholder badges for items that are not available yet. Currently, there are only 11 available items you can buy in purchaser shops, and I have a feeling that number isn't a coincidence. There are a total of 22 different items that haven't been released yet, and it is quite a decent amount of items to have that aren't released yet. Now, there's a lot of speculation up in the air of what these unreleased items may be, but here is my guess. What I am thinking is going to happen is that when Season 4 of Stranger Things releases on Netflix, or it is close to the release of Season 4, I'm going to guess that this game is going to be getting a huge update. An update possibly big enough such as a complete map change. And along with those changes, these 22 mystery items are going to be revealed, and they are going to mostly be items related to Season 4. This is a game that has been in development and in beta for months, and only a few weeks ago did this game come out of beta and into full release. It wouldn't be surprising if the developers aren't already working on the update for Season 4 and we see a complete overhaul of the game when Season 4 drops on Netflix. Now, one of the rules that I have when making RoViews is that I will not make a RoView on a game that is not completed. For example, there's another game that I actually played early into this channel's revival, a game called Shrek The Force Awakens. Jocelyn, the original host of RoView, wanted me to make a RoView of the game when the game got some updates, and perhaps we will be seeing a collaboration with her when this RoView episode is made. However, we both agreed that it wouldn't make sense to make a RoView on this game yet because this game is not complete. Now, technically, the game I'm RoViewing is a finished product, but it's clear that with what we are seeing, we are going to be seeing a huge expansion of this game in the future. And when it does happen, if there are any major changes that have occurred to the game, expect a follow-up episode of RoView on this game, highlighting many of the different changes and see if they have positively or negatively impacted the game. Now, before we get to my final rating that I have on this game, I want to announce a few more things on how I'm going to be doing RoView on these sorts of games. So obviously this is not a normal game. This is a game that is not made just by a single person or a group of indie developers. This is a game that is backed by a huge corporation, in this case Netflix, and I'm pretty sure as a result they had experienced developers who had worked on this game and tried to make this game to come together. And considering that this game is a sponsor, which is a game that is supposed to have a general reach, considering that it's advertised to the entire Roblox website, I'm actually going to be subjecting these games to much higher expectations. Again, these are not just some indie developers who made these games. This is an actual corporation who has the money to hire experienced developers making these games. And if they seriously are not going to be able to deliver quality that should be better than a normal Roblox game, then obviously I'm not going to give it a very nice score. In addition, there are a few unfair advantages that these games tend to have as a result of being sponsored by Roblox. One of these unfair advantages being the fact that you can actually obtain items that you can acquire and put them on your Roblox avatar. Now, not every game can accomplish this. Only games that are sponsored by Roblox at the moment have the ability to reward items that you can actually put on your avatar. And because only these games are able to accomplish that, I will not be taking prizes or how you get them into consideration when I make a final rating of the game. So it doesn't matter how good or bad the prizes are or how terrible the method is of getting them, which is a shame because I really like the method of how you get these prizes in this game. This is going to be a rule that I'm going to be establishing now on, because it just simply would not be fair if I gave a sponsored game a higher rating because they had really good prizes, because not everybody can accomplish this. But I will still talk about them in RoViews because I still think they are worth knowing about. That's why I mentioned them throughout this RoView. So yes, I will mention them in the reviews, but they will not be included in the rating. Alright, that's all I really have to say. Now, here I am. I'm going to be presenting you the final rating that I've given this game. As for the final rating, this game is a 4 out of 10. If it were for the somewhat original art style, immersion, and the fact that you could obtain prizes in this game, I honestly wouldn't be playing this game at all. The games that are presented in this game are uninspired and clearly rushed, as many of the games have flaws in their design and their execution, along with the plenty of glitches that are still present even after this game had gone through a whole beta phase to try and iron out many of the bugs. I am a Stranger Things fan myself. I have actually been watching Stranger Things on Netflix ever since a guy named Austin, a person who could have been my cousin, actually introduced me to the first season when it was released back in 2016. And as a Stranger Things fan myself, I'm honestly pretty disappointed in the quality of this game. Yes, there are plenty of witty references and it does stick with the theme pretty well. I honestly expected the games to be a lot more addicting and playable, considering that events like these are supposed to appeal to a general audience. These are not indie developers who made this game. These are people who should have professional experience on developing games. And like I said, games that are backed by a huge corporation or sponsor are going to be pushed to much higher expectations. And unfortunately, this game really didn't do too well. Now, this was a bit lengthy for a RoView episode. Usually, I don't plan on making RoView episodes to be this long, but the surprising amount of depth that this game has and what you can accomplish with it kind of made the video turn out to be very long. And of course, there have been a few rants placed throughout this video of what the game did wrong and I think what the game should have done. And the funniest thing is, this may not be the last time I'm speaking about this game. I might actually be making a follow-up episode, which is the funniest part, but hopefully even the follow-up episode will be much shorter than this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified for any future upload that I make to this channel. This is Game Webcam, and take care.